then welcome Iranian oil coming into the United States in order to increase that supply?
Again, there's not a deal at this point in time. While we're close, we're not there. So if and when we get to that point, we can speak to that question.
So which is it, Jen? Are you nowhere near a deal, or are you close? Because, like always, you said both things in the same statement, trying to cover for the Biden administration, following directly in the footsteps of the Obama administration. Of course, that's only if you assume they're actually two different things. But what are they doing here? It's unforgivable madness. Biden's preparing to make an indefensible deal, all in the shadows of the Russian-Ukraine war. When I tell you what it is, your blood is going to boil, and rightfully so, because we're going down the same path again, and we're going to support terrorist countries. Not okay, not defensible, and absolutely unforgivable. Now, before we go any further, just a few favors I need from you. First, if you haven't subscribed to Lisa, please go ahead and do that. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, by the way, my name is Justice Knight, today filling in for Lisa Haven. She'll leave a link just above. Hopefully you'll click on it. It means the world to me. And as many of you know, Lisa Haven and I have joined forces to create RestrictedRepublic.com, a bombshell offer for you today. We're going to pick 2 random subscribers. Today is March 5th. We're going to pick 2 random subscribers and give you 1 year absolutely for free. For all of those who described today, we're going to go ahead and pick someone out at random. 2 people out at random. Get over to RestrictedRepublic.com. On top of that, I'm going to give you a discount code FREEDOM at monthly checkout. That's 24 months for $5 a month plus 14 days for free. It's the platform, unfiltered, uncensored, no commercials you need to go to get your news that matters. But now let's get back to this broadcast. So what is this indefensible deal? Has something to do with what you see on your screen. At least this was a precursor to what was coming. When Biden killed the U.S. Keystone XL pipeline, I know many of you are familiar with this, yet backs the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, of course, but we'll go a little bit more forward. I have never been more clear that robust American energy production is essential to our economic and national security. We've been saying that for years. What has Biden done to support that? Nothing. Again, indicators everywhere to the move he is now making. That's Congressman Bob Good who gave that statement. That came off a statement by Representative Chip Roy, which stated, and you see on your screen, the attack by Putin on Ukraine is his latest in his quest for Russian dominance in the 100th year anniversary of the formation of the Soviet Union. And it has unfortunately been fueled by President Biden's demonstrated weakness on the global stage and the Western world's foolish pursuit of fantasy energy policies that have real-world consequences. We must immediately remove all barriers to American oil and natural gas production, stop funding and financing Russian oil and gas, and stand side by side with our NATO allies. But we're going to go ahead and fund someone else, another enemy. This is all the plan. It's always been the plan. They don't want us to be dependent on our own supplies. They need us to be dependent on the world stage, so then we are easier controlled. It's a very simple, basic concept that they don't want America to understand. It is that simple. If we control our own supplies, we control our own destiny. That is not what the New World Order wants, however. But let's move forward a little bit more in this story.
Rethinking some projects like the Keystone Pipeline.
Well, first of all, the Keystone Pipeline is not flowing, so I'm not sure how that would solve anything. There's also plenty of oil leases that are not being tapped into by oil companies, so you should talk to them about that and why. If there's an invasion of another country by a big country, there's going to be impacts on the markets, right? And we certainly anticipated that, and we anticipate that as it relates to the global oil market.
I'm going to stop Jen there. Many things said within that statement. The Keystone Pipeline's not flowing, so why would we use it? Why would we want to gain our independence back? On top of that, we were aware it was going to affect markets. We have a plan in place, but what was that plan? Did you communicate it with anyone? Or are you rushing that plan through before anyone can react in the shadow of the Russia-Ukraine war? Because your answer, again, becomes very clear-cut. Putin got an assist from incompetent world leaders who propped up Russia while risking their own energy security, as we did here. By killing the Keystone XL pipeline and rubber stamping NS2, Nord Stream 2, the administration increased Russia's leverage over global energy markets, which got us here. Now, are we sure that's the full story? Because a new story's taking shape. coming from a country that had this to say about us.
من همیشه میگیم مرگ بر آمریکا، ولی مهمتر از مرگ بر آمریکا عملشه. یعنی هر کی اون دکتری که حتی کروات زده، اینو بذارید، اون دکتری که حتی کروات زده کارشو داره خوب انجام میده، به نظر اون داره میگه مرگ بر آمریکا.
What's the big deal, right? Just death to America. That's definitely a country we should support. That's Iran, by the way. Iran regime's debt to America wrestling head cancels match with U.S. team after visa denial, but that's just the most current story. There's a much larger narrative that is taking place. Trump taking appropriate action against terrorist leaders, but is Biden going to take appropriate action against terrorist leaders? He's absolutely not. He's actually going to support them.
Then welcome Iranian oil coming into the United States in order to increase that supply.
Again, there's not a deal at this point in time. While we're close, we're not there. So if and when we get to that point, we can speak to that question.
I just wanted a refresher of what she said before we move to this clip.
There was a British diplomat that tweeted this morning that the talks are close. One of the reported demands of the Iranians is that this administration reverse the policy of the last one and remove the IRGC from the list of foreign terrorist organizations. What's the U.S. position on that?
Look, we are close. We are making progress, but there's still more work to be done, and I'm just not going to negotiate from here.
Well, you're not going to negotiate, Jem, but it appears your boss is going to. It appears many people are now negotiating with Iran. Funny how this is taking shape. You see, the real stories always surface later in the narratives. Biden's already shown that he'll support these nations. Taliban has billions in U.S. weapons, including Blackhawks and up to 600,000 rifles. Let's not forget what he left behind and whose hands those weapons fell into. Accident? Intentional? Look forward to seeing that in your comments. But back to this reprehensible deal. Iranian oil in exchange for not calling us, terrorists. Sounds like a great deal for the U.S., doesn't it? The Biden administration is about to make a reprehensible deal in the middle of the Russian madness, putting us back closer to this agreement, the JCPOA, the Obama agreement that did absolutely nothing. And why now returning to the JCPOA is a dangerous mistake. Let me give you 3 of those points for you real quick. Drop myself out of the way. Reviving the deeply flawed Iran nuclear deal. And by the way, before we jump any further forward, there's 3 multiple stories going on. Biden wanting to revive a portion of the JCPOA. We don't know what the final form of that will be yet. Biden wanting to buy Iranian oil. And now Iran asking for Biden not to call them a terrorist organization, on top of destroying American energy independence. Is this all making sense to you? It shouldn't. So what was wrong with the JCPOA? Is this secondary deal now going on? Reviving the deeply flawed Iran nuclear deal would reward and empower a hostile dictatorship by lifting sanctions and squandering U.S. bargaining leverage. Number 2, Iran never, ever fully complied with the JCPOA and is currently in violation of it on several accounts. A much more restrictive agreement is necessary, but that is not what the Biden administration will do. And a new agreement should include Iran's ballistic missile program, disclosure of its past nuclear weapons efforts, and better protection for Israel and Arab allies, of all of which this man has no intention on doing. No, his intention is to make an even worse deal. Biden on verge of making worst deal ever with Iran. The details here are very important. Today, the Central Bank of Iran, the National Iranian Oil Company, and hundreds more entities are subject to U.S. terrorism sanctions, not nuclear sanctions, due to indisputable evidence showing their involvement in financing terrorism. To lift sanctions on these banks and firms without any indication of behavioral change will be unprecedented, and this is potentially what Biden is moving towards, by the way. The deal will directly subsidize the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, Hezbollah, and other terrorist organizations. A win for another Russian client state, Syria as well. In January 1st, 200 Gold Star family members wrote to President Biden urging him not to release any funds to Iran. But now this new oil deal is on the table. Jen Psaki saying we're close. Until the Islamic Republic first paid off the $60 billion in judgments owed to American victims of Iran-sponsored terrorism. You think that's ever going to happen? Not in your or my lifetime. To date, the White House has not responded to their plea. The deal may go even further and remove the IRGC from the State Department's official list of foreign terrorist organizations. This is indefensible, unforgivable, not only making America less safe, but weakening legal cases pursued by these and other victims of terrorism. What must Iran do in exchange for all this? For the $100 billion in sanction relief, freedom from terrorism sanctions, and a blind eye towards its nuclear secrets? Well, not much. They just got to give us some oil. Iran will be able to threaten the world at a time of its choosing, since it can keep enriching uranium and developing long-range nuclear-capable missiles to menace the American homeland. And the infamous sunset provisions of the old deal remain in place. They ensure the near-term expiration or sunset of all key restrictions. If you don't believe this is setting up a crisis beyond anything we have seen, that is what's happening. That is what the Biden administration is moving close to, according to Jen Psaki, in the shadow of the Russian-Ukraine war. We don't keep our eyes off the ball at any point, laser focused on what this administration is doing to further deteriorate our independence, destroy this great republic, and take away our freedoms and securities. Now, before I close, as I take a deep breath, Lisa wanted me to give a shout out to her sponsor. This is hidewithlisa.com Virtual Shield, an amazing sponsor, long-term sponsor. 50% off, a lifetime discount. Cyber warfare, you're seeing it on the news, and Virtual Shield is there to protect you. And Virtual Shield is there to work with you on this and so many threats we are now being faced with in this great United States of America. That's what's happening, folks. There is so many storylines that they try to confuse you with. We won't allow you to ever get confused. We will try to paint the clearest picture we can to all the maneuvers being made by this horrendous administration. My name is Justice Knight, today filling in for Lisa Haven. Can't thank you enough again for allowing me to be here. We love y'all. Godspeed and God bless. Until next time, Justice Knight, signing out.